What's up? What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, and welcome in to another edition. No, this is not MVP Sports Live, as you might be thinking, because it's 5 o'clock Central Time. You might be thinking, guys, what's with the schedule today? Running a little late today. There was, I thought, here's the full rundown. So I had eaten lunch today. I thought I was going to be late for the show, which is just a walk from my bed into here. Because I laid down after lunch, and then I woke up. I'm like, okay, it's 3 o'clock. Let me go in, make sure everything's ready. Got to get Wet Boys good to go. Got to get this good. And then 4 o'clock ran around. And I was like, Soaps ain't here. Then I'm like, all right, it's 4:15 or something. Let me shoot a little Soapy a message like, hey, bro, you alive? You alive, big bro? Kind of like poking with the stick. But after an hour later, Soapy is alive. Thank God he's alive. And I am joined with my beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffin.
Hey.
Soaps, how you doing today? How you doing, little sleepy guy?
Kind of okay.
Was
boring.
Was it a good sleep, though? So that's the most important
No.
part. Okay. Then that's not so good.
Whenever I sleep through alarms, that's when I can tell I had, like, really shitty sleep.
Ooh, see, I'm the opposite. If I sleep through alarms, it was like I was sleeping good.
No, like, it's basically, I'm like, the reason I know that with me, that it's like, it's a bad sleep, because then I'm like forcing myself to sleep through alarms.
Yeah, that makes sense. With me, it's just I'm out like a fucking rock. And it just means I was really, 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 really fucking tired, which is usually most days. But this is MVP Games Live. If you're new to the show, this is where we talk about gaming news each and every day. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping before we get into today. Number one, Discord. Join it down below in the description or in Twitch chat at Twitch. Or !Discord is how you get that link in the chat right now. You can also support us 2 ways to do that. Number one, patreon.com/MVPvids. Bronze, silver, gold, and platinum members get exclusive rewards. Content a week early. You can interact with the live show more than just regular people could do. And then also you get access to the voice channels in the Discord as well. You can also sub to us on Twitch and get the same rewards as a bronze level patron. And then the last thing is we're on Twitch, twitch.tv/MVPvids. We're usually live 4 p.m. Central, 5 Eastern. Today a little bit later. And then we're also on YouTube at MVP Entertainment as well. But Soapy, the main thing we're talking about today is we're kind of taking a look forward into the future of gaming. We kind of talked about this week games that we're excited for the rest of 2020. But now with the next-gen consoles announced, we know what dates they are. Hopefully, you got your PlayStation pre-ordered, or hopefully you're looking to pre-order your Xbox on Tuesday, the 22nd, and you're looking to get your next-gen going. I know the first part of that, the former, you probably don't have because of how PlayStation fucked up their pre-ordering. But Soapy, I wanted to take a look at 2021 because there's a lot of good games, and a lot of games especially that I'm excited about. I'm hyped for. I hope they're good. There's a lot of games also where I'm like, you know what? I think I have to get an Xbox along with a PlayStation at some point. And right now I just wanted to run through some of the big games before we kind of talk about it. And I asked like the ultimate question. These are the big games we know that are coming out in 2021. You've got Hitman 3 in January, Prince of Persia Sands of Time Remake, that is also January. You have Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, that's going to be in February. Far Cry 6 for the PS5 is going to be in February. And then we've got the ones that have no date. As Dusk Falls, that was shown at the Xbox Showcase a while ago. We've got Braid, the Anniversary Edition, Chorus that we saw at the PlayStation Showcase, Deathloop that was supposed to come out this year but got pushed to Q2 of 2021. As I scroll down this list, Exo Mecha that you and I talked on the test episode of MVP Games Live. We saw that at the Xbox Showcase. God of War Ragnarok, God of War 2021 is what they're calling it right now. Gotham Knights, Halo Infinite, Hello Neighbor 2, Hogwarts Legacy, Hood, Outlaws and Legends, I Am Jesus Christ. That's a PC one. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, Madden 22, Monster Hunter World Stories 2, Wings of Ruin, that was announced yesterday, No More Heroes 3, Psychonauts 2, Phantasy Star 2, Rogue Lords, the Gollum game for the Lord of the Rings series, and a little bit more as I'm looking down the list. I'm trying to see. Oh, and the Warhammer game, Warhammer 40K, Dark Tide as well. Soapy, the question I wanted to ask is 2021 going to be either the best year for games? Like, it's going to have a lot of good games in it to where the Game Awards at the end of the year, we're going to have a very hard time picking what the game of the year is? Or is this going to be a year where we're going to be very hyped about games, but it's not going to live up to the hype level that we're going to build it up to?
I think it falls somewhere in between.
Okay.
And the whole thing is with me, a lot of those games, like, I think a lot of those are going to be good games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think many of them are going to be great games.
Okay.
Because, like, for instance, games like Hitman's not going to be great. Hitman's just going to be good. And I know that's a very cynical way of looking at it, but, like, I've played the Hitman games. If a Hitman ever made it as a Game of the Year contender, that's more indicative of just what games came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think, like, going into it, it's like, okay, you know, like, the small air quotes are not smaller.
Yeah.
Games like Hitman, those are the ones that it's kind of like, okay, you know, like, those are just going to be good. It's like, the Game of the Year ones are going to be like God of War, like, Horizon Forbidden West.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever that comes out in...
Totally fucking forgot about Horizon 2. Yeah, that's right. That's coming out also.
Yeah, like, games like that are going to be the ones that are pushing for Game of the Year. But then, like, for instance, games like, oh, fuck, what's it called? Like, State of Decay 3 is not going to be fighting for fucking Game of the Year.
Yeah.
So, I think it falls into a interesting spot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly just because it's like, okay, cool. You know, we now have to wait till... We have to wait for that. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of, like, great games, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of, like, flops. I think it's just going to be there's solid
flops,
games across the board.
You mean like the top games aren't going to flop? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Halo, I hope Halo Infinite doesn't flop, but, like, I don't think Halo's going to flop. God of War, I would expect not to flop. Horizon Zero Dawn, I would expect not to flop. Like, the games that are in that Game of the Year category. Like, is this going to be a year then that's kind of carried by these top end games? Because, like, for me, there's a lot of games. Like, I feel like the three that you mentioned, Halo, Horizon, and God of War, book it. Game Awards 2021, those are in the running for the Game of the Year at the end. But, like, this is a year where there's a lot of games that fall outside of those top games that I'm like, holy shit, I'm actually excited for this. Like, I'm trying to think. As Dusk Falls, that's the one that was kind of like the comic book strip one from the Xbox showcase. I'm trying to think. I would have to go back and watch it. What was the one where it was kind of like, is it called Medium? Where it's like, you're kind of like a girl with psychic powers, and it's a horror game, and it's like you're in between two worlds. Like, that even looks exciting to me. Exo Mecha looks exciting to me. Like, usually I'm on the PlayStation side, and it's like, okay, I've got my PlayStation games. I'm not really going to think about the Xbox. But, like, for me, I feel like there are games top, medium, and lower tier of, like, where games are, that I feel like there are S-tier quality games in each tier of big titles, little titles, and middle titles.
Yeah, and especially because I don't even want to say so much it gets carried by the big ones. I want to say, like, if the game set, like, a good benchmark of, like, okay, like, you know, we're starting off next gen good.
Yeah.
Of, like, you know, there's not, like, super bad games. Like, I think that's what I'd be impressed with, because I think that's really what to me, almost kind of hurt this gen a lot more than, like, for instance, like with the Xbox. It's a lot of people say, like, what killed the Xbox One was that there was, like, no games.
Mm-hmm.
I think what hurt it more is that every game that came out sucked ass.
Yeah.
So I think this right now, I think especially leading into a new gen, I think like the expectation is being set so much higher than what it was before.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why, like, and also hell, it may just be I'm being cynical, and I don't want to fucking say that all these games are gonna be good.
Well, and also, I mean, yet again, the reason why we're talking about this now, more than like if this was a normal year, we'd probably wait and talk about this in December. But this is not a normal year, as we are a month and a half away from the end of this current gen and the beginning of next gen. Just to kind of put this into perspective, Soapy, when the PlayStation and the Xbox, the Gen 4 Xbox is one, right? It was Xbox 360, and then Xbox One, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So for PlayStation and Xbox One, I'm looking right now at a list from VentureBeat.com that is the release schedule for 2016. And I'm using the PlayStation date of November 15th as like these are the games that are coming out. So you had actually I'll start with November. November 4th was Infinite Warfare on Xbox One, PS4. You also had, let's see, a little bit later, the Assassin's Creed Ezio collection. Dishonored 2 was in November. Watch Dogs 2. Let's see. Phantasy Star 15 came out that year. So really, Phantasy Star has kind of lasted the entire gen of the 4 to kind of end that year. Dragon Ball Fusions in December, and really like after that December didn't really have any. So it's like our launch titles, and I know maybe the 2021 is different. Maybe I would even have to pull up the 2017 release, because that would relate more here of like what it was: Dishonored 2, Infinite Warfare, and then Final Fantasy 15 for the PlayStation folks. Like those were the main launch titles that came out when this current gen started way back in 2016.
Yeah, and right now I think it's both sides, especially because a lot of these aren't exclusive that are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a super good thing. Obviously, PC is just kind of intermingled in there.
Yeah.
Because PC still has fucking games that come out all the time, so they don't have to worry about having a shit lineup while they sit there and wipe their eyes away with the fucking Steam Summer Sale, where they can basically buy like fucking 50 games for like $100.
Yeah.
You know, they don't got to worry about how with consoles we just sit here and we're like, come on Sony or come on Microsoft, give us a deal.
Well, and I even looked at, like, I just pulled up the 2017 schedule, and here were all the games that came out in January that year. You had Hatsune Miku for the PS4, Rise and Shine for Xbox One and PC, Road Redemption, PS4 and Xbox, 2064 Read Only Memories, PlayStation, The Flame and the Flood, PlayStation, Gravity Rush 2, PlayStation, Urban Empire, PC, Dragon Quest 8, which was a 3DS, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which was on PlayStation, Xbox, Kingdom Hearts, HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, PlayStation, Resident Evil 7 was pretty much the first like big title I would say we got in that month, and that was January 24th, both Xbox and PlayStation. Then Tales of Berseria, then Yakuza 0, both of those PlayStation. Moto Racer 4, Double Dragon 4, both of the, well, Moto Racer was on Xbox and PlayStation, Double Dragon was just PlayStation. Conductor HD, both systems. Hitman, the first complete season, both systems. Digimon World, Next Order, which was just PlayStation. Like the Xbox didn't have so like Resident Evil 7 was on both, but like the first Xbox only game that I would say would be a huge one was what, Halo Wars 2, and that was all the way in February of 21 or February 21, 2017.
Yeah, I mean, I exactly don't know all the games that came out in between.
Yeah. No, I'm
And
looking
even that
at it
Halo
and
Wars
like
2, even if that Halo Wars 2 isn't even really that big of a game either.
mhm.
So it's one of those things that where the list goes even farther.
Yeah.
So I think it's this gen. Obviously, a lot of these aren't exclusive,
Yeah.
but they really do need to hit because it's going to help both consoles.
Mhm.
Because then it's also the one thing that I'm worried about for this gen is like, and obviously I don't care about exclusives.
Mhm.
Like I know they're fucking inevitable.
Yeah.
My main worry is like, okay, like if it basically just becomes a like a battleground of like, oh, we're gonna try to lock you out of the console market, doesn't that basically just turn into a monopoly?
What do you mean by lock you out of the console market?
Like basically, if they start like like it's the whole thing of how like Sony keeps trying to go for exclusivity
Mhm.
for everything. If
Yeah.
don't isn't it if they get too many fucking exclusives, they basically just become a monopoly because then at that point Xbox can't buy anything.
Yeah, but like at the same time it's one of those it's is PlayStation able to buy like I see what you mean because like if they have all the exclusives then it's like okay, what's left for Xbox? Um but I think that's why we've seen Xbox make at least some sort of a kind of effort to like bring on studios and say like, hey, we're gonna bring you in. You're gonna be part of ours. Like you're a Microsoft studio. To where I feel like exclusives are not going anywhere anytime soon. PlayStation's doubled down on it. Their CEO or somebody and their high ups recently has even taught like you mentioned it on a Games Live this week of hey, the Game Pass model is not good for us. So we know that PlayStation isn't going anywhere near that. That they're going to stay with their exclusives and it's going to be tried and true. That's what they do. It'll be interesting. I've always said it's going to be interesting to see how the two plans work. Where we've always said PlayStation's like, we've got the games. If you want to play Miles Morales, if you want to play Horizon Zero Dawn, you got to come to PlayStation for that. Where Xbox is just like, dude, we just want everyone to play great games. We got Game Pass. You can play all of them there. I wonder how xCloud, with that just starting up this week, I believe. I wonder, I know there's a little hiccup with Apple. Apple not playing nice with xCloud, but also they're dealing with things with Epic as well. There might be a little hiccup there, but like if the xCloud and streaming services can hit with Xbox, that can be a market that Xbox has that PlayStation is not doing. PlayStation is not looking into like the streaming, like the Stadia and the xCloud services. They're just focused on their PlayStation 5. So like for me this year, I think this year has the potential to be one of the like I've said earlier, one of the great years in gaming where we look back and go, man, this year had great games at the top. It had great games at the bottom. It had great games in the middle. This is the first time in a long time, Soapy, that I've been excited about games that I never thought I'd be excited for. Like one that, okay, I shouldn't use excited for this. I should use intrigued for this is, and I got to look up, okay, it is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. There's a game called Stray that they've shown a couple times where basically if you guys haven't seen it, the trailer is just you live in, it's a world of robots where like robots are like humans cutting their like wires, they're getting drinks at bars, and you're just a cat. And you're walking through this world, and it's like I'm intrigued to see what that turns into. Maybe I see gameplay in a gameplay trailer, and it turns me off. But from what they've shown so far, I'm like, okay, that's an intriguing concept. Playing a cat who does not talk And just like those games, the thing I like about them is they're really set on the world that they're set in. To where it's like, because your character can't talk, because you're not going to get much exposition from what your character is feeling besides like body language, it really is dependent on how great the world is you build around it. And it's like, that's a game that usually I wouldn't be excited for, but that's like not one of the top games. It's not one of the Resident Evils, the Horizon Zero Dawns, the God of Wars, the Halo Infinite. I'm going to throw Resident Evil in that sense of Game of the Year candidates for the end of the year. That I do feel like this is going to be a very good year for gaming. Good, bordering on great. It just depends on, for me, how those middle and low tier games hit, because I am expecting the top tier, like those 4 that I listed, those top tier games, I expect them to hit. I don't think any of them are going to be duds at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of duds.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, obviously, there's other games we haven't seen yet,
Mm-hmm.
or even heard of yet, that could come out next year. So I'm really looking forward to it. But
Yeah.
I'm also kind of going into it with a little bit of jaded, like, I've thought this about years before, and I'm like, do I want to get burned again?
Yet again, the classic Ricky optimism, Soapy cynicalism. You gotta love a balance, though. You gotta love a balance between personalities. But let's move on. The next thing we're going to talk about, this is coming from Polygon.com. Rayman creator Michel Ancel quits game development. Wild and Beyond Good and Too Evil still in development, Ancel says. The article basically says that Ancel says he's leaving game development after more than 30 years, but Ancel says his 2 in-development games, Wild Sheep Studios' Wild and Ubisoft's Beyond Good and Evil 2, will continue and are going super well. Ancel announced his retirement from games on Friday via Instagram, where he said he will focus on a new project at a wildlife sanctuary. After more than 30 years, I've decided to stop working on video games and fully focus on my second passion, wildlife. My new project takes place in the real world and consists in a wildlife open sanctuary dedicated to education, nature lovers, and wild animals. Many of you might want to know what will happen to Wild and BGE2. No worries, since many months now the team are autonomous and the projects are going super well. Beautiful things to be seen soon. You also had the Guillermo Berni of the senior producer of Beyond Good and Evil 2 at Ubisoft. They also released a statement kind of just like thanking Michel for his time and everything with that. It also says, following the announcement, Beyond Good and Evil 2 development team are about the long in-game development, noting that the game designer hasn't been directly involved in its creation for some time now. Soapy, the thing I wanted to ask you with this is, what is your takeaway from hearing this? Because in the gaming, around the gaming sphere today, this kind of seemed like a whoa, nobody expected this to kind of happen. Of course, in life, we're human. So it's like we start off on one path and we're very passionate about something, but like as we grow and mature, obviously our passions change. And we have different dreams as our lives develop and stuff. And definitely this could have been a case here of like, you know what, working on games so far, hey, I think I've accomplished everything I can in here. I want to go and try this venture, another passion in life. There has also been, as the article says at the end, is Ancel's departure from games comes amid months of turmoil at publisher Ubisoft. The French publisher has been the subject of multiple misconduct allegations, which has led to the resignation of Serge Henskret, formerly the company's editorial chief, the resignation of Berlin, the editorial vice president at Ubisoft Toronto, and the firing of Ashraf Ishmael, formerly Ubisoft Montreal's creative director for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and the firing of Tommy Francois, the company's vice president for editorial and creative services. So for you, Soapy, do you see this more of like a, hey, probably thought, you know what, games ain't doing it for me anymore, I want to go and try to get happiness out of this other passion in life? Or do you think working with Ubisoft, maybe that impacted the happiness of Ancel, and he was probably like, you know what, I got to step away from games for my own sanity?
I think it's a solid bit of both. And especially because it's, you know, he's been in the industry for 30 years. At some point, he's going to end up stepping out of it.
Yeah.
And especially because it may just be right now of, like, because the whole thing is, Ubisoft is such a, like, is one of those companies, like, crunch happens in Ubisoft, but it's also because since you're working on basically the same game every year, all you have to do is slightly change, like, a few things.
Yeah.
And the thing that, honestly, what I think may have happened, I do think, like, the workplace really turned him away from it. Mostly because everyone at fucking Ubisoft is apparently creepy as hell.
Nah, apparently. I wouldn't say everyone, but most of the top up people seem to be creepy with everything we've heard.
Yeah, basically, what from all those positions you read, don't go anywhere near Ubisoft's editorial, or they'll tell you that they're diddling stuff, because they're fucking weird. Apparently,
wasn't one of them like you would actually like openly tell people about like masturbation and shit like that? Didn't we cover that?
I don't remember if. Yeah.
I think that was the Tommy Francois story.
No, Tommy was the one that he basically would tell people, "Please come to my office and jerk me off." That was Tommy.
Okay. Yeah, the basic details of the diddling. I try to forget, Soapy. I try to not keep that in my mind, as that's not a safe thing to have in your mind.
Yeah, but I think it's Ubisoft may be one of those things of like kind of drove that wedge in. And it may also just be like, for instance, you know, the gaming industry has changed a whole lot in 30 years. And almost what I'm thinking is he may have stepped away.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of realized that like maybe he doesn't have it anymore.
Okay.
That's a lot of times it's I've always been more of the believer of retire before you suck. So like your last impression of people isn't, hey, I made this trash game. And I'm not saying like, oh, look, that's indicative of either of the two games he last worked on. But like he may be like, okay, I may as well get out while it's good, because for instance, if Beyond Good and Evil 2 is really good, if Wild's really good, people are going to be like, wow, he went out on a really good note.
Yeah.
But like, let's say if like Wild came out and it sucked ass, the last impression you're going to have of him is he worked on this trash game.
Yeah, and
it may have been like kind of hanging up your hat early. So then that like, because it's like I said before, it's with the game devs and stuff like that. It's such a volatile industry because if you even lose a step at all, like I said before, there's thousands of other people waiting.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's a fucking conveyor belt basically. It's an assembly line. It's literally like you slightly don't work, you're gone. And it may have been like he probably was like, you know, I'd rather leave on my own terms than if like a couple years down the line lose my position because like I can't keep up with the younger guys.
Well, and
I think that's most likely why.
One of the things I think about, and this is kind of going off of something that you said in your comments, was correct me if I'm wrong, when you said that like the gaming what did you describe it? The gaming atmosphere. You didn't use the word toxic, but you said it's changed to where like that made me think of, for example, in the article or in his kind of post of retiring, how you look at it and he goes, hey, I'm stepping away, blah, blah, blah. This is what I'm going to do. And immediately, what does he feel like he has to do? Oh, don't worry. The projects that I'm working on there, it's like, that shouldn't even, like, I was just thinking about that as you were talking. I'm like, that shouldn't matter. Like, the kind of, and I'm not saying that everyone out there, when they heard this, would be like, well, you know what? Fuck what you're going to do. How about those games you promised me? I'm not saying everyone's going to be like that, but it kind of sucks that that's where this guy is leaving gaming. He's going off to do another passion, 48 years old. Maybe it's also a thing of like, hey, you know what? I've done this for 30 years. Basically, he's done it since he was 18. Since 18, he's been working in games, working on like Rayman and the Beyond Good and Evil games. And the first thing, he can't even be like, hey, it's been a great run, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do this new passion of mine. He can't even get that out before immediately having to go back and go, well, don't worry. The games I'm working on are great. They're still going to be fine. Because like in the end, it's like me, I kind of sit there and go, the game shouldn't matter here. Like, yes, you want the games to be good if you're a fan of the games, but like the announcement is like, hey, it should be like a, hey, you know what? You do you. I hope you're happy in life. Like that kind of a thing. Not a, oh, that's great, but tell me about those games that you were working on.
Yeah, and that's the stuff of where it's like, for instance, dude, if I leave work, fuck you. I'm not talking about what I did at work. You know, not obviously to you specifically.
Yeah.
But like it's one of those things. So like if I was stepping away, and I obviously I don't know if he plans on coming back at some point. But like I almost think that this is kind of him realizing, like, you know, this isn't the same thing I fell in love with.
Yeah.
And that's the thing of, like, for instance, if you notice older, like, people who played games, like, obviously not when they first came out, because if you played video games when they first came out, more power to you. But I don't want to hear the simpler times if you played Atari, because I had 2 pixels moving on the screen at most.
2 pixels moving on the screen at most.
Yeah. Like, obviously with that one, that's, you know, like, that's the exception. But, like, if you grew up in, like, the days of, like, the Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64, like Super Nintendo, and things like that.
You're making me feel old, Soaps.
Well, I mean, because those were 90s?
Yeah, they were.
Either 90s or early 2000s. Like
early 90s. Early 90s was Sega and Nintendo.
Yeah, so it's consoles from that time period, or people who grew up with those, have a different viewpoint of people who play video games in the early 90s. And now people have a different view now. Of where it's like you have basically 3 separate generations of like gamers. You have the people who like they appreciate that like a game gets as much love as it does.
Yeah.
Like that, you know, people put their heart and soul into a game. You have the people who are just kind of like, dude, I just want to, I don't really care. And you have the people who are like, it's basically over time it became cynical, because now it's like this weird like hyper demand that like every game has to be this all-time great game or it's bad.
Yeah.
Has just come out of nowhere. And I think it may be one of those things where he realized, like, either he doesn't think he can keep going. So he's like, you know what? It's fine. Like, I don't want to be here for another, like, shift in it.
Yeah.
Because it's also, we've kind of separated, like, well, we've kind of separated and combined things at a similar rate. And what I mean by that is, like, for instance, if a game is bad, everyone in that dev studio is bad. Because I'm going to use, there's a game studio that used to be around named Maxis. Yeah. Maxis made the SimCity games. First couple SimCity games, fucking great. Like some of the best city building games ever.
Yeah.
They still hold up today. EA buys them. You could definitely tell where this is about to go.
EA bad. EA bad.
Yeah, it's EA tells them, hey, we want you to make a SimCity game. They're like, okay, cool. You know, like, how long do we get? And they're like, you get a year. Make the game.
Ultimate crunch.
Fucking just, game is just bad. People, and at this point, obviously, this was before everyone was the whole fuck EA hype train.
Yeah.
They blamed Maxis for it. And it's now, since I think it's also people kind of know more about like the gaming industry in total. Of where, obviously, there's still people who blame dev teams, which obviously I will say, a piece of the blame goes to them. Like, I'm not saying like completely give dev teams like a break from it.
Yeah.
But like, I always will say, I'm like, okay, I'm like, how much time did you have? What was the budget for your game? because they don't set that.
Mm-hmm.
If, like, let's say they have like this super huge budget, they get as long as they need to, and the game sucks. Yeah, I'll blame the devs.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like a situation where you have a year and a half to make this game, and your budget's like, obviously this is be fucking extreme, but like $100,000.
Yeah.
At that point, that's when I'd just be like, okay, that's more of like the Activision's, the EA's faults,
Mm-hmm.
rather than the dev team. But it's also, there's still people who just shit on devs for everything.
Yeah. And like, I know we said this before, this is kind of the last thing I'll say on it, is it could also be we talked about he's been in games for 30 years, 48 years old. It could be also something of like, hey, you know what? I can walk away right now, and it's not going to hurt these 2 games because the teams that we have in place can carry on without me. And it could just be something as simple as, hey, I want to be able to be like, maybe he's had a passion for nature for a while, and it's just like, hey, I want to be able to do this shit while I still can physically, to where it's like, I can go out and work in the sanctuary without having to like basically wait until I'm 80. And then it's like, oh, well, I have a garden in the backyard. And then it would be like, well, man, I wish I would have done this kind of sooner. So it could be even something as easy as that. Let's move on, Soapy. We got kind of 2 things left. Shorty But A Goodie has a couple good things in it. The first one is interesting. This is from IGN, Matt TM Kim. Amazon warns it may not be able to deliver pre-orders by release date, PS5 news. This was a tweet sent out, and this is what the main part of the tweet said, and this is what Amazon had been sending out. It says, hello, we are contacting you about your order of a PlayStation 5 console to let you know in advance that you may not receive this item on the day it is released due to high demand. We'll make every effort to get the item to you as soon as possible once released. You can track the latest shipment status of your order under your orders on Amazon.com. Once there, you can make changes to unshipped orders, canceled unshipped items, track ship packages, and much more. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Sincerely, customer service, Amazon. Soapy, my first question here. Who do you put this blame on, Amazon or PlayStation? Is this
I don't put blame on anybody.
Okay, so this isn't because the way I was thinking of it was, this is just another thing onto the shit pile, which is the PlayStation pre-orders.
Yeah, and my whole thought process with this is that right now, like, it's so many people ordering it. Mm-hmm. The whole reason I don't place blame on either is like, that's a lot of shit.
Yeah.
That Amazon has to basically deal with, while also having literally the rest of the fucking world delivering through them.
Yeah.
Like, if it was just solely like all they were doing was releasing PlayStations and they said that, yeah, then it's both's fault. But dude, fuck. Amazon's already basically, like, Amazon may as well just take over the post office now. We don't, like at this point, dude, like, the only reason we have, like, the U.S. Postal Service.
Jeff Bezos, the ultimate postmaster.
Well, considering, dude, they fucking basically get shit delivered faster than the actual fucking... Yeah, right. Faster than the actual U.S. Postal Service. Like, at this point, I know there was the whole thing going on with the Postal Service. We're not going to talk politics in here.
No.
If that shit disappeared, Amazon's right fucking there.
Yeah. But that would be a monopoly. Wouldn't it? Would it?
I mean, they'll find a way around it. But yeah, I don't place blame on anybody for this, and it's just because that's such a sheer amount of it, and it's going to do the same thing with Xbox.
Will it? You think that Amazon will send out those same things for Xbox? Because the thing that I was thinking, this is why I'm leaning more towards is this PlayStation fucking up even more, is wouldn't PlayStation have it set to where it's like, okay, we have all the retailers here, basically have numbers for them of like, all right, Best Buy, you have this many that you have for pre-orders. You have this many. You have this many. Like, was that not communicated to these retailers? Like that, hey, you're going to have X amount of consoles to have for pre-orders. You might not have them in your possession right now, but this is how many that we are going to give you for pre-order. Like, was that not set? Is this because, like we talked about yesterday with the pre-order stuff, has PlayStation, are they behind in their manufacturing to where they don't like, they're just trying to make these as quick as possible and they're behind the 8 ball with everything? We don't know. We're not a part of PlayStation, but like, that's why to me, I start questioning PlayStation. It's like, did you not have a plan where it's like, okay, boom, 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 this is your numbers, this is how many you have, so that Amazon could basically be like, all right, we're getting close to that number, all right, we hit it, pre-orders are done.
I mean, the whole thing is, I think they have been telling people because, for instance, they wouldn't say sold out for pre-orders.
Mm-hmm. Good
like,
point.
they would just let you just keep racking it up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think with Amazon, can get away with having more than, like, a Walmart. Because they got whole ass, and I mean whole ass warehouses.
Yeah.
And, like, their Amazon warehouses, I've been inside of one.
They're huge.
They are not small.
Yeah, they're huge.
Like, they are like the size of Walmart.
Yep.
Strictly for just Amazon shipping.
Yeah, they're absolutely
It is terrifying
behemoths.
seeing how big those things are.
They're absolute units. So
yeah, and yeah, it's just one giant PS5 sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing of, obviously, once again, I'll always shit on PlayStation for how they handled this, and it's not because the whole like, oh, Sony bad. I'm not taking that whole route.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I think it was all too much at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, it's gonna happen anyways with pre-order. Because like, we're giving Sony all this shit. Similar stuff is gonna happen with Xbox. And obviously, that's if Xbox outsells, like, kind of like I think they will. But even then, it's also at the same time with Xbox, it's going to be, hey, look at this. We're having fucking, we have 2 consoles coming out with this one. It's like, yada, 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 and all that fun stuff with PlayStation Digital. Also, just randomly throwing this in there. A lot of people are going to be pissed when they realize that, they pre-ordered the wrong console for Xbox.
Oh, when they did the S instead of the X?
Oh, no, it's, what it was is, I remember I was looking up a thing of where it was like all the places you could pre-order, the Xboxes for, and like some of the places basically have stuff up already for like a page for it. Best Buy, I think it was either Best Buy or Walmart, had it. There was 3 consoles there. The Xbox Series X, the Xbox Series S, and the Xbox One S. The Xbox One S was sold out for pre-orders.
No.
Yep. I can't wait till people realize that.
That's a Gen 4 console. What the fuck? Why would that even be up there?
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yep. Dude, I love it.
Oh. Why would they even put that up there?
I don't know.
Oh my god. Oh. Other PlayStation news here in Shorty But A Goodie also is that so PlayStation has announced that up to 99% of PS4 games will be backwards compatible. But we finally got confirmation that PS5s will not be backwards compatible for PS3, PS2, or PS1 games. So something short we've been talking about. Your PS4 games, if you get the regular PS5, you'll be able to play those PS4 games on it, but you will not be able to play PS3, PS2, and PS1 games. However, like for me, I don't even know where any of my 1, 2, or 3 PlayStation games are. So really, this does not affect me at all. We also had some Cyberpunk news, Soapy, as Cyberpunk released, or I should say CD Projekt Red released, the minimum PC specs needed for Cyberpunk. Just wanted to run through them really quick. So the minimum OS that you'll need to run Cyberpunk on your PC will be 64-bit Windows 7. However, they recommend 64-bit Windows 10. The DirectX version, the minimum you can do is the DirectX 12. They actually recommend that, so that's not anything different. Your processor, you can run it on an Intel Core i5, but they recommend the i7. Memory, you can minimally at 8 gigabytes. They recommend about 12 gigabytes of memory. Graphics card, the minimum is the Nvidia GeForce GTX 780 3 gigabyte. However, they recommend the 106 or the 1060 6 gigabyte version. And then storage, it's about let's see. The minimum is HDD 70 gigabytes. However, they recommend SSD 70 gigabytes. So Soapy, what is this kind of telling you? I know it's the PC version, and a lot of council people might be on the side of like, great, you can do your taxes on that great computer you have. Does this tell you anything? Like, are you basically like, okay, that's what it is? Or is this, does this have any implications for what might be the what it could be on console? The council.
I'm gonna be brutally fucking honest with you. You started listing those off, and I don't know why. My fucking brain just decided to turn off, and I was like, "Oh," that's a whole lot of like numbers and names that I'm hearing. I'm like, I don't fucking know half of these.
But if you're a PC person, there you go. There you go. Basically, is what that is. And Dave, thank you for. I always screw up console. I say council and not console. Console people, I usually just say council people, which is not the same.
Dave, like you got them all twisted up now.
A council is different than a console. My dumb speak. Go ahead and do things. Console. Got to say it really slow. Last thing, but shorty bit of goodie. You're gonna love this. You want to know why you're gonna love this, Soapy?
I read it and I don't fucking... I mean, I love it because that's an absolute power play, but I hate it because of what it is.
It's more Fortnite news, more Apple Epic news, but not that juicy. So basically, Fortnite Save the World unplayable on Mac after next patch. Fortnite Save the World mode, the one that got the whole game started, remember, will no longer be available to Mac players, another consequence of the Epic Games and Apple's brawl over access to the App Store. A post from Epic Games on Friday morning said that Fortnite's version 14.20, which has yet to roll out, will cause bugs for Mac users on version 13.4, with Apple now preventing Epic from patching its games on Mac OS. That means Save the World will be broken once the update rolls. Epic Games is offering refunds to those who spent money on the game and played it at some point in the last year. That means purchases of Save the World founders and starter packs, plus their upgrades on an account that has played the mode sometime before or between September 17th, 2019 to today. Epic will also give refunds for any V-Bucks or llamas bought on Mac since September 17th, 2019. I got to do this, Soapy. Oh, I got to clap for Apple because this is basically the, you want to come to play with us? Fuck yourself. Giving money away. You're giving that money back because they can't play it. So this just means, hey, Epic, you want to fight this battle? Lose some more money.
Yeah, dude, this is why I said I love to do, because it's a fucking power play.
I expected you to say one thing. I expect you to say one thing to Epic that we usually say to Sean. No. We usually say this to Sean.
Get shit on.
Get shit on.
That is in there a little bit.
Get shit on.
But like, dude, like this is how basically I stand by it. This is how you can tell they 100% are confident they're winning this thing.
Mm-hmm.
That they are doing all of this shit right now. I'm like, dude, it's the fact that, like, the reason that it's a power, like, and obviously it's a pretty fucking obvious why it's a power play.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I fucking love that Apple is being this petty is this basically is telling people, don't fuck with Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Because Apple will stoop to low levels. And the whole thing is, they can stoop lower than game companies.
Yeah.
Because they can get real low. Because the whole thing is like, and that's also why, and obviously I know there's some people who would be like, oh, this is Apple abusing their power. No, it's not. They're allowed to make changes like these.
This is totally on Epic of like, oh, you wanted to get into this war? Face the consequences, my guy.
Yep. Because the funny thing is, if a company did something similar to Microsoft or Sony, they could do the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I absolutely loved it. I wanted to throw it in there. I was like hoping this made Soapy just a little bit happy. But the last thing, Soapy, we're going to talk about today is a comment from PlayStation's boss. And this is from Matt TM Kim at IGN. PlayStation boss Jim Ryan explained Sony's decision to pass over on making a lower cost, lower spec console, citing that those kinds of hardware offerings haven't done too well in the past. In a translated interview with Japanese media outlet Impress, IGN independently verified, Ryan was asked why Sony didn't announce a lower cost PS5 designed with lower specs. First of all, let me say that we respect the judgment and philosophy of our competitors. Obviously, price is an important factor, and we respect the strategy of our competitors. That said, we are completely convinced that our strategy and its implications. One thing I would say is that introducing a lower spec console at a lower price range hasn't produced pleasing results in this industry's past. We have also considered such an approach, but I also know that other operators have tried and had problems. Ryan says the conclusion comes from research that says customers want to invest in a console for long term and use it for as long as 7 years. We want the products we buy to be future proof, Ryan says, and are not looking to buy a product that will become obsolete in a few years. Soapy, what are your thoughts on this? This is obviously there's a part of this is like, hey, I'm telling you why we didn't do this, but there's also a part of this that's a little bit of a jab at Xbox, is it not?
Yeah, it's also the one problem with his philosophy is there. If you believe that, why'd you make the PS4 Pro? Well, that's the thing.
Would that
making a separate version of your same console after your first one has already been out is showing your console is reaching the end of what it can actually do. And guess what?
But
if you want to use the argument too of it holds like the Xbox One S is going to hold that gaming industry, you are willingly going into it knowing you are not getting the same power. The whole thing that annoys me to no end about this whole conversation is like, I get it. Sony obviously is taking more, like they kind of took the high road here. Of where they were like, oh, we respect their decision. My whole entire thought process with this, one, Xbox should be the least of your worries right now because you have the entire internet pissed off at you. Two, Xbox has willingly said that they know the S, like the whole reason the S is selling for cheaper, since it's weaker. It's also the fact it's more reasonable that you can get an Xbox One X because it's financeable. If this was like you were just straight up, you had to pay $300 straight up, that's where I would start saying there's a problem.
Yeah.
But since you can finance it, it's not that hard to get both. I don't know why you'd buy both. But because if you buy both, you're paying $60 a month for two consoles.
And also, I'm an idiot. You want to know why I'm an idiot?
Why is that?
During our, remember how we talked about games to be excited for 2021 and shit like that?
Yeah.
I messed up the dates. I was looking at when I did 2016, 2017. The PS4 Pro released in 2016. The PS4 released in 2013. The only difference, and that's the difference I would just throw out playing devil's advocate to because like, I'm not against the Series S. I think the Series S, one of the main reasons why Microsoft is doing it is twofold. One, pandemic. More people might be inclined to not pay for a more expensive console, but you can still get them to buy the lower one. Number two is if your plan is all about X Pass or Xbox Game Pass, then of course you can have a lower one, because then you can get a entry level that is lower than what's needed. And like we've said before, the casuals are going to be the ones that go to the S. The ones that go to the X are going to be your hardcore Xbox gamers. The PS4 Pro, with that argument, though, I would say that's a little different, because the PS4 came out in 2013 and the PlayStation 4 Pro was like, hey, this has been out for 3 years. Now we're making an addition to that system. It'd be different if they came out at the same time.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Because it's also the reason why, and this is mostly just like built-up frustration over constantly hearing the same stupid argument of like, is the S going to hold back next gen? The games are built different. Like, I know I keep making the joke in Discord watch-alongs. Like, I always make the joke in Discord watch-alongs, I'm just built different.
Yeah.
But, like,
they literally
this
are
one,
built
like,
different.
Yeah, it's meant to be weaker. It's going to still look good. Like, you're not going to have it to where, like, oh, the Xbox One S version has, like, 4K capabilities, because the console can't fucking run it. It'd probably explode.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that bothers me, is I know some people would be like, oh, well, you know, that's not fair to the people who buy that. Boo fucking who? Buy the other one.
Boo fucking who? Buy the other one.
Like, that is my whole point. Obviously, I will say, and I personally say this, I think my biggest gripe with the way that Xbox has handled this so far, or not with like how they've handled it, I wish they would have made a digital version of the Xbox One X instead.
Okay.
And the reason why is, like, obviously then you're directly competing with, like, yeah, you're directly then competing with PlayStation. But even that, like, I'm fine with the S existing. It's just personally for me, I wish they would have just made a digital version of the more powerful console. Because, and my whole thought process was like, so, and this is how I view it. With the disc drive, I know the disc drive costs money.
Yeah.
In the space that the disc drive's in, could you not put something else there? Like is that just an empty part of, like, for instance, instead of like where the disc drive would be like that big fucking hulking thing inside of it, could you not fit more storage?
I guess you could. Especially if it's like it's a digital console. Like, you would I would almost love if the fucking digital had more space, because you're going to be downloading instead of, I mean, I guess you've got to install the game from the CD anyways.
Yeah, and that's mostly just because they're kind of skipping over they're kind of doing the preventative measure of, like, if your disc gets, like, too scratched up, like, hey, it has enough of the data that I can figure it out.
Yeah.
Because, like, honestly, I've even said, I'm like, because, I mean, me and you have both said, like, I honestly think when the next iteration, like, if, for instance, if they make the fucking Xbox One X Pro or some stupid thing like that, they'll find some other stupid way to put another X in there somehow.
the Xbox Series XXX.
Okay, no, maybe not that one.
That's the third version, man. You gotta have the Series XX and then the Series XXX.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically
sponsored by Pornhub.
This one. Yeah. Sponsored by the Hub.
Yeah, sponsored by the Hub.
But, like, it's, for me, I wish they would have done something with the non-disc drive version that made it different. Of where, like, it has more storage, or, like, obviously don't make it so much more of a powerful console.
Yeah.
But just say, like, hey, in place of having to buy physical games, you have more storage.
Yeah.
And now, and my whole thing is, I think, obviously I know people are going to have different opinions on that. You then could make the digital version more expensive. Because I don't know why. I think it's to me of where I'm like, me personally, what purpose do I have to get a $500 PS4 then, or PS5 then? Because I don't buy discs anymore.
Yeah. Because I don't buy this either. Like, that's the reason why the digital for the PlayStation I'm so excited for. But, like, that's why with this discussion, I'm excited. Like, I shouldn't say I'm excited. I'm intrigued to see how the Series X sells. Because yet again, I think the one important thing that maybe Ryan is missing is that we're in a pandemic, and maybe that went into Xbox's decisions of like, hey, there might be people that can't buy the Series X. Let's still get them in. Let's get them in the door. Let's not have like, this is the only door you can get into. No, you can get into this door if you want, no matter what reason that is, because Xbox with their two consoles are sticking true to what they've always been about. We just want to get people access to games. We just want you to play the games. That's what we want. So like, we're going to have to wait and see the sales for the X and the S, but I'm intrigued to see how the S sells compared to the X. But that's going to do it for Games Live today. A little later show, but still a good show for you. Make sure to join that Discord channel, link down below in the description, or if you're in Twitch chat right now, !Discord, get you the link for the Discord. It's a great community to come join and talk to everyone from the Real MVP family. Come and support us also. Patreon.com/MVP vids. Get rewarded for doing so. Access to the voice channels in Discord. Content a week early. Interaction with the live shows. And then obviously thank you to our Patreon sponsors, Pat Hill and Philly Sean. You can also support us by throwing us a sub on Twitch, twitch.tv/MVP vids. We do the show on Twitch every Monday through Friday, and we're also on YouTube at MVP Entertainment. That is going to do it for Soapy and I for this week. We will be back next week with more gaming news for you, and hopefully on Tuesday, both Soapy and I are happy campers, and I have my PlayStation pre-ordered, and Soapy has his Xbox pre-ordered, and we're all happy campers on Tuesday, but we'll have to wait and see for that. If you're on Twitch right now, stay tuned. Sports Live with Dave and I is coming up next, but for everyone watching, as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.